A quiet walk through the temples of Luxor, a sleep story, the moonlit path of the temple. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, the once golden stones of Luxor's great temples shifted into shadows, bathed in the soft, silver glow of the moon. The vast structures loomed quietly against the backdrop of the night sky, casting long, serene silhouettes over the sacred ground. A lone traveler, weary from a long journey, entered the temple's ancient halls. The cool night air wrapped around him like a blanket, soothing the fatigue in his limbs as he took slow, deliberate steps. His footsteps echoed gently on the stone path, reverberating through the towering columns that reached high above him. Each column was adorned with intricate carvings, ancient depictions of gods, pharaohs, and celestial beings. The walls whispered stories of time long past, tales of power, devotion, and divine presence that had once filled these sacred halls. As the traveler continued deeper into the temple, the sense of awe grew stronger. The air was thick with something beyond the physical, a profound energy that seemed to pulse with the wisdom of ages. The traveler's breath slowed as the stillness enveloped him. He paused, taking in the sight of the grand columns, the quiet majesty of the space. The moonlight filtered through the high, open roof, casting soft patterns on the stone floor. It was as though the temple was alive, breathing with the history of the gods. There was no rush, only peace, a timeless tranquility that washed over him. With a soft sigh, he made his way to a stone bench nestled in the heart of the temple, near an ancient statue that had watched over the sacred space for centuries. He sank into the cool stone, the weight of his journey slowly lifting from his shoulders. The distant hum of the night air blended with the quiet whispers of the past, as though the very stones themselves were murmuring secrets from a time before memory. The traveler closed his eyes, feeling the temple's ancient energy surround him like a protective embrace. The walls, though silent, seemed to pulse with a calming rhythm, a gentle heartbeat of the temple itself. It was as if the gods, long departed, were watching over him, their presence a silent guardian. Slowly, his thoughts began to fade, his mind drifting with the soothing rhythm of the temple. He felt the tension in his body release completely, as if he had been transported beyond time itself. As the traveler let go of his thoughts and surrendered to the peace that enveloped him, he was carried into a deep, tranquil sleep. The soft, gentle whispers of past, mingling with the night's quiet hum, lulled him into a serene state. In his dreams, he wandered the temple halls once more, this time not as a traveler, but as one with the ancient wisdom of the gods, watching over the eternal sacred space. The sacred halls of quietude. The night in Luxor was still, a deep, silent calm that seemed to stretch endlessly beneath the watchful gaze of the moon. The ancient temples stood like silent sentinels, their grand stone walls bathed in silver light. The air was cool, and the world felt untouched by the passage of time. A quiet traveler, weary from his journey, walked slowly through the sacred halls of the temple. Each step he took echoed softly against the stone floor, the sound reverent in its solitude. The sacred halls, once filled with the prayers of priests and the footsteps of worshippers, now stood empty, yet full of an ancient presence. The temple, though silent, seemed alive with the energy of the ages. The air itself was thick with peace, as though the echoes of forgotten voices still lingered in the corners of the room, waiting to guide the traveler, to offer him comfort. As the traveler continued through the vast ruins, his senses were heightened by the quiet that surrounded him. The soft rustle of his robes was the only sound that accompanied him, and the grand pillars that stretched toward the heavens seemed to hum with a rhythm all their own. It was as if the very stone and air held the wisdom of generations, a quiet energy that both comforted and soothed the weary traveler's mind. He came upon a magnificent statue, an ancient god whose serene eyes seemed to follow him with wisdom and calm. The stillness in the air deepened, and the traveler felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over him, as though the very presence of the divine had wrapped around him like a protective cloak. There was no fear in this place, only an unspoken connection, as if the divine had always been present, waiting for him to pause and listen. The traveler sank to the stone floor beneath the statue, resting his back against the cool stone. He closed his eyes and allowed the stillness of the temple to seep into his soul. The weight of the outside world seemed to melt away, leaving only the quiet pulse of the temple's ancient energy. His breathing slowed as the peace of the space cradled him, each breath deeper than the last. The serenity of the temple began to take root in his mind, silencing the noise of the world. With each breath, the traveler's body relaxed further, his mind growing quieter. The vastness of the sacred halls faded into the background, leaving only the soft hum of ancient energy surrounding him. And soon, with the quiet energy of the temple surrounding him like a cocoon, he slipped into a deep, peaceful slumber. His dreams carried him gently through the sacred halls, like leaves floating on a breeze, drifting between the realms of the living and the divine. The divine whispers of the temple guided him through this dream, as if the very walls were watching over him, protecting him in his slumber. The gentle whisper of the temple's winds. The wind whispered gently through the towering columns of Luxor's temple, the air thick with the scent of ancient incense, now faint but still alive in the stone. The soft rustle of palm fronds swayed in the breeze, their rhythm blending with the distant croak of a frog near the Nile. The night stretched on in its quiet majesty, broken only by the soft whispers of the past that seemed to hum in the very stones of the temple. The solitary traveler stood at the entrance, his gaze fixed on the intricate stone reliefs and carvings that adorned the walls of the temple. Each one told stories of gods, kings, and forgotten moments, carved into the walls with a precision that had withstood the test of time. As the traveler lingered there, he felt as though the temple was speaking to him, not in words, but in a deep, ancient energy that seemed to pulse through the air itself. With every breath, the traveler could feel the weight of the world around him soften, his senses heightened by the stillness. The night was calm, yet there was something alive in the air, something that beckoned him to venture deeper into the temple's heart. Slowly he stepped forward, his footsteps quiet against the stone floor, and continued toward the inner sanctum, where the temple's oldest secrets were held. As he ventured further, the cool, crisp air surrounded him, and the quiet murmur of the wind seemed to call to him, almost like a gentle invitation. The traveler's fatigue from his long journey weighed on him, but the peaceful stillness of the temple soothed his body and mind. The wind swirled through the open columns, carrying with it the whispers of ancient voices, of priests, of travelers, of those who had come before him. It was as though the temple itself was reaching out, guiding him, offering him sanctuary in its time-worn embrace. Unable to resist the peaceful allure, The traveler sank down onto the cool stone floor, his back resting against the sturdy wall of the temple. The wind continued to whisper softly through the columns, its song like a lullaby, rhythmic and gentle. The warmth of the evening faded as the coolness of the temple took hold, and the traveler closed his eyes, allowing the calming sounds of the wind to wash over him. With each passing moment, he felt the weight of the day lift from his shoulders, his breath slowing in response to the quiet serenity that filled the air. The wind seemed to wrap him in its gentle embrace, like a soft, comforting blanket. The walls of the temple, ancient and wise, stood as silent guardians around him, and the traveler allowed himself to let go. His mind began to drift, carried away by the whispers of the past, until the waking world faded completely. The temple, the wind, and the whispers of ages past cradled him, guiding him into a peaceful slumber where his dreams floated on the breeze of Luxor's ancient winds. The eternal peace of the temple's shadows. The moon hung low in the sky, its pale light casting a serene glow over the ancient ruins of Luxor's temple. The shadows of the great stone columns stretched long across the weathered floor, creating a landscape of contrasts where light and darkness danced together. The air was filled with a profound stillness, as if the temple itself held its breath in reverence to the night. A lone wanderer moved quietly through the temple's vast halls, his footsteps soft against the stone. He had come seeking peace, drawn by the ancient energy that lingered in the air like a comforting presence. As he ventured deeper into the heart of the temple, he felt the weight of time gently press upon him. The silent statues of gods and pharaohs stood like sentinels, their carved eyes calm and eternal, watching over him with a wisdom that spanned millennia. The temple's stillness was almost sacred, the kind of silence that could fill the soul with a deep sense of reverence. The wanderer felt as though he were not alone, though no one walked beside him. The spirits of those who had come before, those who had once prayed and lived within these sacred walls, seemed to linger in the shadows, offering a silent protection and a quiet peace. As he wandered, the wanderer paused beside a column, his hand lightly resting on the cool stone. The stone, worn by centuries of time, felt ancient beneath his touch, its surface bearing the markings of history. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, and allowed the temple's energy to wash over him. It was a calm energy, rooted in the earth and the sky, and it seemed to enter him, filling him with a quiet strength. The silence deepened, surrounding him like a soft embrace. The whispers of the past began to fade, and the world outside the temple seemed to vanish. There was only the peace of the temple's shadows, the timeless energy that had endured for centuries, offering solace to anyone who would listen. The wanderer felt the weight of his journey lift as the stillness cradled him in its embrace. Slowly he sank down onto the cool stone floor, his mind easing into a tranquil state. The energy of the temple guided him, comforting him, lulling him toward rest. As the shadows of the temple stretched around him, he felt himself becoming one with the silence. His breath slowed, his body relaxed, and the wisdom of the ages wrapped around him like a blanket. The temple's shadows, so ancient and wise, cradled him gently, guiding him into a peaceful sleep. With each passing moment, he drifted deeper, his mind floating away into a realm of quiet dreams. The whispers of the past faded completely, leaving only the eternal peace of the temple and the presence of the gods who had watched over this sacred place for centuries. In the stillness of the night, the wanderer found rest, his soul at peace, his heart undisturbed, as he slept beneath the temple's wise and protective shadows.